Hello and welcome to another episode of 1000 Actually Fun Books, where we review books of every genre looking for the best of fun escapist books. Today we are reviewing the book Keeper of Enchanted Rooms by Charlie Holmberg. And I like to hold it up, but I don't have the book because I read it on my phone. So here is a picture of it. This is a fantasy book with a strong thread of very gentle romance, a clean romance, and a hint of suspense. Not really an action book, but there is kind of an overtone towards the latter half of the book, kind of impending dread of something coming for our main characters. But mostly it's a fantasy. So our plot begins with Merritt. Our main character is a guy, I guess one of two main characters, and he has inherited a house that is thought to be cursed. It is enchanted or haunted, or something is going wrong with that. When he first arrives at the house, he opens the door, he steps inside, the door slams behind him, and he cannot leave, and the portraits follow him, and things that keep happening in there. I'll quote one little section. This is on page 23, at least of my phone, and it takes place after he's been in the house for a day or two, and somebody from the enchanted, I don't know I can't remember the name of the facility, but they want to preserve enchanted homes. And so a lady comes, her name is Hulda, which is a great old-fashioned name. Hulda comes and is going to tame the house. So she has arrived at this point, and Merritt says, "The table swallowed my wallet." So she is going to try and retrieve the wallet. Rapping her knuckles on the surface, she said, "Come now, give it up. What is the point? You certainly can't do anything with his wallet. Now can you?" The floor creaked like they stood on the deck of a ship sailing into troubled waters. Reaching into her bag, Hulda pulled out a stethoscope, inserted the earpieces into her ears, and pressed the drum to the tabletop. She shifted it around a few places, tapping with her free hand, until she found a spot where the wood sounded compact. Pulling out a small ward, she dropped it on the table, and the furniture belched up a well-used leather wallet. "You're a saint," Mr. Fernsby said, snatching up the wallet before the table could consume it once more. So that kind of gives you an example of some of the things that they encounter, the troubles with the house. It is not very cooperative at the beginning, and Hulda comes along and helps Mr. Fernsby, Merritt, help control it, so that they work together and gentle the house so that it's livable. And as through the process, they get a couple of servants, a cook and a maid, and Hulda acts as kind of a housekeeper while she is taming and exploring and figuring out what's up with the house, trying to determine what spells are there and kind of the history of what's going on with the house. So that's kind of the main thread through the first half of the book, is understanding the house. Then the other threads start coming in. So one is the romance plot thread. And I'm going to start with things that I like. I like this romance. This is a gentle, sweet, they get to know each other, get to like each other. It is not a lust romance. So there's nothing spicy, nothing explicit. The strongest it gets in that is at the very end of the story with a kiss. So they are dancing around each other, does he like me? Does she like me? Kind of thing going along with there. And so that's fun. It's a good romance. I liked it. There's a lot of banter, humors. They get to know each other. Another thread through this that I also liked was the suspense. So you find out there is a bad guy. And at first, for the first half of the book, it's kind of confusing because it does flashbacks to somebody else who ends up, being a pretty nasty individual. And you sit there and go, what does this have to do with the house? Was this a previous owner? What involvement is this man going to have in the storyline? And as you get farther along, you find out what's up with him and that he is still around, because the flashbacks only take place like 10, 20 years before the story takes place. So he has returned. And so you as the reader know this. The characters don't necessarily right away know that. So you have that kind of dread looming that he's going to show up, but you don't know how or when or what's going to happen when that happens, leading to the climactic scene, pretty much the only action scene in the book, as they're dealing with the bad guy. And the author handled everything about that really well. It had a good tension in what was going on, a good bad guy, and a good climactic action scene. So yeah, everything about that was well done. So I like the plot, I like the tension, I like the romance, I like the magic. So this is a unique magic system. I've never seen anything like this. There are 11 schools of magic in this, and each of them have different branches. It's genetically controlled, I guess you could say. So whatever you inherit is what you have. And you could inherit different threads. You could skip a generation or whatever. So for example, if you have, I don't know, control of air and communication, you might be able to get a really good job in long distance letter transmission or something like that. Or if you have fire and, I don't know, kinesthetics, you might be good in the military, shooting fireballs or something like that. One school of magic, if you have just that one, may not be very useful, but if you have multiple combinations, it could be useful. And you're not quite sure what it is that some of the characters have and how they use them. And it's not super clear about all of the schools of magic in this book, but you have hints of a bunch of different ones and how they can be combined. It's not thoroughly explored in this book, and this book is the first in a series, so perhaps in subsequent books you learn more about the different schools of magic, different ways they can be used and combined. It's very interesting, the schools of magic and how they work. I thought this was a really, like I said, very unique system that was fun to read about. So I really liked the fantasy aspect of this. Our characters. I liked our characters. Both the main character Merritt and the main female character Hulda were interesting people. They're not perfect people. They have interesting histories that you learn about, what made them who they are. They have fun personalities. They interact well with different people. They have different quirks. I liked them a lot. They were well fleshed out and interesting characters. The pacing of the story was good. I never really lost interest in this story. It wasn't one where you had a really slow point. It's like you finish one thread, like discovering the house, and you kind of almost immediately start in on a different thread, or it picks up because it's already started of a different one. And the pacing, both the character interaction and the interaction with the magic and the interaction with the plot, or the pushing through of the suspense part, the action part, whatever it may be, it had a good pacing throughout. We'll just say pacing throughout the book was good. It has a satisfying ending. This book feels complete by itself. It does not end on a cliffhanger. I actually am kind of curious because there is more in this series. There's like 3 more books in this series, and I'm like, where could they go with this series? It feels like it ends so firmly right here that there is no continuation. It's entirely possible that it takes place years in the future. Maybe that's what the series goes through, because it seems like the series is about the house, not necessarily about the people. So that's kind of an interesting thought. It's also interesting, so this takes place in the 1840s. So you have a lot of things that are historic in there, but it's obviously an alternate universe. So you have trams, kind of like trains, but trams that run on kinesthetic energy, magic. So it's not quite... It's an interesting era. It doesn't really feel like the era has a huge impact, but it's certainly there in subtle ways. You write by candlelight. You copy things manually with a pencil. There's no machines to rapidly do it for you. Anyway, so fun setting and a satisfying ending. There are only a very small, tiny number of things that I don't like about this. Very little. One is there's a couple of, I think it's pronounced anachronisms, where you have something in the story that doesn't really fit the timeline, despite the fact that it's an alternate timeline. So I'll give you one example. They're very, very little, but one was somebody was talking about sustainable energy. And I was like, oh my goodness, that was a phrase that was not something that anybody would have come up with in the 1850s. That is a very modern phrase, sustainable energy. So that kind of jumped out at me as something that was very much out of place. There was just like one or two things like that in the book that I was like, even in an alternate universe, that just doesn't work for me. There is we'll call it a romantic misunderstanding, the classic kind of a romance story that has to have some sort of misunderstanding so that both characters are upset and think we will never get together despite our true love kind of thing. And I kind of rolled my eyes at it. If our main character, Merritt, had just explained what he was doing, this would have completely removed the misunderstanding and you wouldn't have had that. And I kind of roll my eyes at those kind of romantic comedy flubs that aren't very realistic, I don't think. Yeah, and everybody overreacts to it. Oh no, they're going to hate me forever, they're going to find somebody else, whatever it may be. It's just kind of more ridiculous than it is realistic. So I don't always love that kind of thing, but it's a very short misunderstanding. It gets resolved, the next chapter. So overall, this was a fantastic book for a low fantasy, a kind of almost a cozy fantasy, definitely a romance. It's not mostly fantasy, it's definitely a romantasy for a combination thereof. And I liked it. It was fun, it was gentle, it was sweet, it was engaging, it was all good things. So I highly recommend it. Do thumbs way up. Okay, so the next book I'm going to read is a nonfiction, The Spy and the Traitor by Ben McIntyre, looks like. So this has to do with the greatest espionage story in the Cold War. So spies. And that sounds like a lot of fun. So I would enjoy learning about some actual history of the spying situations in the Cold War. That sounds fun. So I know nobody else wants to look at those reviews, but I don't care. I'm doing these books for me. So that'll be fun. All right. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that and are going to join me for next time.